This video was inspired by somebody in my Discord chat. Quick sidebar, if you guys want me to talk about anything in particular, even if it's something that I've addressed before, feel free to just leave a comment in the YouTube video or just reach out to me on Discord. I'm easily accessible. I have no problem talking about anything, assuming that I have enough to talk about to make a full video. You see what I'm saying? So if you guys have anything you want me to talk about and I feel that I can make a cohesive video out of it, let's do it. But nevertheless, this individual wanted me to talk about fear, and more specifically, becoming fearless. When I sat back and I was thinking about how to approach this, I realized that I could attack this from so many different directions, because fear at the end of the day is a choice. It sounds hard, it sounds like a reaction, but we don't react over here, we respond. And sometimes fear is the appropriate response to a certain environment that you're in. We've been taught that you're supposed to be fearless. You're supposed to be not afraid of anything. But I'm sorry, the older that you get, the more that your fears tend to grow with you. You're no longer necessarily afraid of the dark. You're not afraid of spiders. You're not afraid of heights anymore. However, as you grow and mature, new fears take its place. Like you're fearful that you won't be able to defend someone that you love. You fear that you're not going to meet your own or somebody else's expectations. See, these are the types of fears that grow. So fear is a constant variable throughout life. It's how you manage it. It's how you control it. You have to learn how to use fear instead of letting fear consume you. You see what I'm saying? So, like, for example, one of the old phrases that I have from back in the day, like my older videos, was just like, yo, fear is something that pins you into a corner. And when some people get tucked into a corner, they fail. They curl up and they just accept what's coming to them. But some people that refuse to give up, that refuse to be pinned into a corner, they'll use that corner as leverage, put their foot on it, and use it to lunge at whoever's attacking them. So fear is a choice. How you manage your fear is a choice. But some of the stuff just simply needs to be practiced. So there's so many different ways that you can become quote, quote, fearless. You bring in the opposite in your own mind. You might be in Chirac. You might be in some Middle Eastern country where you wake up to bombs and missiles flying overhead. That doesn't change what's going on in here. It shouldn't. Your external reality is only an outpicturing of your internal world. You have to remember that. That's the first and foremost rule that I'm going to give you. I'm going to approach this hippy dippy, and then I'll get a little bit more practical. But I stand on that point. There are people right now that are in prison, right behind the cages, locked up with Big Debo and Murder Mook over here, and then with the Aryan Brotherhood, with the Hispanics that will slice your neck for fun. All right, but they themselves in their mind are not in prison. Every time they go to bed, they're going to bed in their hotel room. They're going to bed in the penthouse. They're going to bed all in their mind. So it's changing the external reality based off of what's going on in here. So if you're walking through a war-torn area or just a dangerous city or something like that, sure, yes, just having this wishful thinking isn't going to block a bullet, isn't going to block your ops from getting to you. It can, it can't, but I'm trying to be a little bit more practical with my advice here, but you have to acknowledge that you are in a sketchy area. Are you going to be fearful to go outside, or are you going to be prepared? You see what I'm saying? And just that small shift in your perspective, and that might be a separate video I make, but that small shift in your perspective can change you from being fearful to just being vigilant. You see? Yeah, that there's the drug bangers, the drug dealers and the gangbangers hang out on that corner. Yeah, that there's such and such over here. So is there something in your mind that you could just simply avoid it? And once again, I don't promote violence, but some people, they have to take that tool with them. It's just like, okay, if it's that dangerous, if your life is in that much danger, do you have everything that you need to protect yourself? Maybe it doesn't have to be a gun. Maybe it could be a pocket knife that you get from the 7-Eleven, from a flea market or something like that. Maybe it's like a freaking, I don't even care if it's something as simple as like a sock full of coins, like you're in prison already. You know what I'm saying? Do you have a means to protect yourself? Because no matter how tough you are, you can poke your chest out, you can talk all big and bad. Like, this is the practical side of my advice. You could be all macho, tough guy, but nothing can stop a bullet. So even though that's an inevitability, and for some people that they might find that's why would you even say that if you're trying to uplift me? There are some things that just simply are reality. And you can't walk around fearful. You don't wear a helmet in hoping that in the off chance that a rock falls from space. Okay? So, and then are you going to walk around with a bulletproof vest? I mean, if you live in an area like that, why aren't you? I mean, if we're being real, they got backpacks that got, bulletproof protection on it and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But you still need to protect yourself too. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of it is preparation. Go learn how to fight. And I'm not saying go pick fights with people. Go to some dojo. Go to some rec center that teaches the classes or something like that. If you're being bullied in school, for example, maybe you can't fight your bully straight up, but you can position yourself well. You can position yourself next to the teacher's classrooms. You can position yourself out in the open so everyone has no choice but to witness you being bullied. And now you can, you have that level of protection of all these people watching and stuff like that. Get creative with defending yourself. The more creative you are, the more different internal safeguards that you have that says, okay, I can't prevent this, but I can do this. Start focusing on all the things that you can do. You see what I'm saying? Because my other thing is, this is why I ride so hard for the religion and spirituality aspects. A lot of you religious people out there, I don't care who you are, Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, Sikhists, whatever you are, you will get on the internet and talk about how the universe is conspiring to help you. You'll say that you're God's chosen one. You're a chosen one. Jesus told you this. The prophet Muhammad, he said this and that. And this is why we follow his word. And you have so much faith in these protected buildings, the churches, the synagogues, your own house in front of your phone. But then when you walk outside, your God abandons you. I don't understand that. How do you have this all-powerful God, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, the teachings of Muhammad, whatever, in your pocket, in your mind, in your heart, but the second you walk outside, you're scared of man? So you give all of this to this all-powerful force that can do anything for you, but the second you walk out, you fear the finite, limited thinking man? And by man, I just mean human being, person? Really? Does that make sense? You see what I'm saying? Y'all see why I question so many things about religion? Because how do you have fear if you have your God, whatever that is? I don't care what it is. I'm just saying, if you have your God, what are you scared of? Well, God can't block a bullet. If your God can't protect you, in the words of Dick Gregory, if my God can't protect me from a thug like you, then I got the wrong God. I'm just throwing that out there. You know what I'm saying? So we got the spiritual aspects. Practical aspects is simply just positioning yourself wisely, prepared. Fight or flight isn't just a sign of cowardice. It's a sign of strategy. You fight whoever's messing with you. Whoever steps up to the plate, you fight them off one way or another, or flight. When it's time to run. Have some conditions in your mind. If there are two people that approach me, run. If the big dude if Debo from Friday approaches me, run. If this dude approaches me with a weapon, or especially a knife, if it approaches me with a knife, run. A gun, disarm and run, or knock it away, do something, have these things in your head. And based off of your physical ability and your imaginative know-how, your creative know-how, that's how you create these conditions. So you won't be caught off guard, because that's the main thing. A lot of people are caught off guard in fear-based situations. If you are a trained Navy SEAL, if you were a trained boxer, a trained kickboxer, a trained karate person, and someone approaches you, you're not scared, because in your mind, you already know what you got to do. Okay, it's like left hook, jab, uppercut, block. Okay, kick the knee in, get them to the ground, wrestle them, choke them out. You already have a flow chart in your head. So you have to develop your own flow chart based off of your environment. Like I said, a fearful environment doesn't necessarily just have to be bullets and missiles. It could be something as simple as you being afraid to go in there and talk to your boss about a raise. It could be the same thing of, stepping up for somebody else. Hey, I'm scared because they might turn their attentions on me. But the question that you need to ask yourself is, how would you operate in this environment, in this position, in this event, whatever you're in? How would you operate in this space if you were not afraid? Well, dang, I said, yeah, I've been thinking of breaking up with this guy that I'm dating, and but I'm just afraid that he's gonna. What would you do if you weren't afraid? You see, this is why, again, that I teach so much about division and fear. When the government is telling you all these things based off of division and fear, those are the two telltale signs that something is afoot. When those things are happening, I know that there's evil afoot. If I know that I'm walking a righteous path, I know that one way or another, things are going to work out in my favor. You know what I'm saying? But if you're making fear-based decisions, you're already operating from the bad polarity. There's so-called light and dark. I don't see those synonymously as good and evil, but for the sake of this example, there's light, there's dark, there's good and evil, right? There's bravery and love, and then there's fear. When you're making decisions out of fear, which side of love? Fear. Which side of the polarity are you operating on? You're operating closer to fear. Why are your decisions based off of fear? Instead of saying, oh, I need to pack that thing on me because those dudes from around the corner are armed. That's a fear-based decision. Instead, and sometimes it's a slight tweak in perspective. Whereas the other side is just like, okay, I'm going to carry protection so I have something to defend myself in the event that something happens. You see how that's just a shift in perspective is just enough to stop you from operating based off of fear. Yes, of course, we can all say that just because you see things as fearful or not fearful doesn't mean they don't exist outside of you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that these things were going to be there anyway. So how are you going to interpret it? How are you going to operate? You see, don't let the external influence the internal. It's always the internal that reflects the external. Sometimes you need to learn how to play possum, play dead. Sometimes you need to learn how to thin the herd. I learned this from Rurouni Kenshin. Say, for example, you're running from a group of people, right? You're running from a group of people. It tends to be the fastest one that catches up to you first. If you're somewhat skilled in your hand-to-hand combat, close quarters combat, or something like that, you can run, knock out that one dude, bing, bang, boom, 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 and then keep it pushing. You know what I'm saying? Rock them into a trap, smack them upside the head and keep it pushing. That's one man down, and now you only got to deal with 3. Oftentimes, people tend to get scared when they see their comrades falling beside them. A lot of people are very strong in the group, but if you learn how to isolate one after another, that's how you can take down multiple people. But that's a very specific example, you know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, it's like there's so many different ways out there. The easiest way that I've already said it is identify where the fear is and then say, how do I change this into a less fear-based thinking? Okay, I know it sucks for some of you that are dealing with this. Like if you're in a war-torn area, you wake up to missiles and bombs. It's like, oh, must be 10:30. They're the missiles. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, you can't control where the missiles are going to land. You can't control what building is going to blow up. However, this is where in your day-to-day activities, you simply need to stay vigilant. It's like, okay, wait, why are there so many people all looking very sketchy running out of that building? I'm just going to go down the street. Yo, I see a whole bunch of armed guards over there. Is there a way I can get around them without having to go through? I mean, more likely not they have a schedule, a set checkpoint. But like if they have a checkpoint, is there a way I can get around it? And then like if you're older, especially is that the type of place I can bribe? If you're in those types of areas, but nevertheless, it's like there's so many different options. You just have to sit down with yourself and come up with a game plan. Learn how to play possum, learn when to fight or flight. Have your flow chart of conditions that need to be met for you to respond a certain type of way. Prepare yourself in the free time. Either learn legal code to fight against the officers of the court, the countries, all this type of stuff, or learn how to defend yourself in the courtroom by different case laws or different books that exist out there. Go to a gym, get bigger, learn how to fight, box, kickbox, wrestling. I would recommend boxing, kickboxing, and wrestling specifically because most people can't get to the ground. So once you get them on the ground, they're probably screwed. So if you know how to do that, you walk around with a little bit of bravado. A lot of people there's actually once again it's the internet, so have situational awareness. But like I've seen where like the YNs, the urban youths of today, it's like if you would just avoid looking at them, that kind of shows that you a punk. So when you look at some of these people, and there's different situations, sometimes avoiding eye contact is best for you. Sometimes looking especially the young dudes dead in the eye. If you look at them dead in the eye, for young dudes specifically, more often than not, they're going to be like, oh, you're not someone to be messed with. As long as you still approach them with respect. Being big and bad doesn't mean you get disrespectful, because disrespectful, it gets out of fear, and now you just disrespected someone, and based on how small their ego is, they're going to have to defend themselves. So you being disrespectful kind of just like, you know, sealed your warrant or sealed your sentence, you know what I'm saying? So what you need to do is always treat people with the respect that they feel that they're owed. But if you can handle it, hey, do what you do. Once again, this is just a mix and match of just random little pieces of advice. I hope I answered your question, and you know where to find me if I didn't. But hopefully these are just some simple nuggets that you can use. Use your religion, use your mind, use your spirituality, use some common sense. Prepare for everything. And everything that you can't prepare for, have some set conditions in your mind that operate the flow chart so you're not stuck in that freeze state. You know what I'm saying? And then you can always operate under pressure. Some things are outside of your control. That just it is the way of this game. You know, so for whatever it is in your control, focus more on that. If it's outside of your control, don't worry about it. If it's within your control, also don't worry about it. Just focus on the correct polarity. Focus on what you can control and make that your nest egg, make that your foundation. And that in itself, with those small shifts in perspective, should help you in deciding whether or not which side of the polarity you are, fearful or brave. Till the next one.